welcome. This is our creating a short film series with the Digital Lounge. Yes, last week we talked about pre-production, so it's basically everything you need to do before you shoot for a short film. And this week we're going to talk about how to shoot a short film, and we're actually going to practice that. We have a camera and we have sound equipment, and we're actually going to shoot a little scene. So yeah, this week we're going to be talking about production, which is where all the action happens, what people think about when they think of making a movie is all the stuff that happens in the production phase. So this is when all of the preparation pays off. It consists of the actual shooting of a project, and the length of the shoot can depend on the project that you're working on, what complications you have, what kind of budget you have, how long it is. A 5-page short film is going to take way less time than a feature-length film. 5-page short could take anywhere between 1 to 3 days. Feature-length film could take weeks, months, or maybe even years in some cases. Um, and so, yeah, it's important to do all the detailed pre-production work that we talked about last week in order to make sure you have a smooth production phase. And last week we talked about what each department does during pre-production. And during production, these are the things that they're doing. Usually as the screenwriter, your work is usually done, but in some cases, specifically on TV sets, screenwriters may be asked to come onto set to be there for any last-minute script changes. This was especially popular during the height of sitcoms, like in the 90s. You'd see a lot of writers on set punching up jokes, being there since they had a live audience. If something wasn't landing, the writer was there to kind of step in and make something funnier. The director's probably the one of the only rules where they're very involved through all three phases of making a short. Pre-production, we talked about last week. The director is there to facilitate everyone else's pre-production work to make sure everything is meeting in a cohesive vision for the film. And on set, there isn't much of a change there. They're leading the crew in production, making sure everyone is achieving that vision that they've all established and are working towards. And the director typically has last say on all decisions. I say typically because sometimes if you're working on a big budget movie, producers and executive producers might be involved in making certain decisions. But on a smaller scale, the director is kind of the last call on all decisions made. Production, this includes like producers and assistant directors. The AD, assistant director, is crucial in keeping production on schedule and making sure that you make your days. So they're the ones making sure everything gets done in a timely manner. And on-set producers may be there to help solve any problems. A majority of their work is done in pre-production, but there are things that come up during set, and depending on what kind of set you're on and what budget, the producers may be more or less involved on set. On bigger projects, producers may be there. In Video Villages, which is where you can watch footage being shot, just to kind of see the process, not necessarily have too much of a say on what's actually happening. The camera department, very simple. They are the one shooting the project. So their pre-production work consists of creating that shot list, making sure they have all the equipment and crew that they need. And then on the day, they are kind of nonstop all day shooting a setup and then hurrying and getting ready to set up another setup, and then they're shooting. So they don't really get any breaks during production, whereas some departments do. Like sound, pretty simply, their job on set is to record production sound. And in between takes, they may be in charge of recording room tone, which helps in post-production sound, and getting wild lines for lines that might not be said on camera, or the director might want alternate takes. And potentially sound effects. I've been on some sets where people um, record some footsteps or crowd cheering or things that might be available on set that will help ultimately in the post-production phase. The art department, their job is to dress the sets depending on how complex your production design needs to be for a short film. They could be heavily involved, sometimes even a day before shooting, getting the set ready. And then once they've prepared what you're going to be shooting that day, they might even be looking ahead to future days, trying to get set dressing ready for that as well. So they're kind of, they're not necessarily always on when it comes to the actual shooting. They're just preparing as fast as possible. And they are expected to kind of be around also when you're shooting. If you need last looks in case something's wrong, the director needs something changed, you always want someone in the art department ready to do a quick fix. The script and continuity department, this would consist of your script supervisor. They are a one-man department that takes care of like a million jobs. One of them being monitoring continuity. Say in one shot, one of the characters has a purse on their right shoulder, but when you shoot another shot for the same scene, the actor has put it on their left shoulder instead. It's the script supervisor's responsibility to flag that to the director and say, hey, the purse is on the wrong shoulder. So they're catching mistakes like that so that everything makes sense when you cut it together. Because when you're making a film, you're not, different shots are shot at different times. So there are inevitably going to be things that unintentionally change from shot to shot. And the script supervisor is there to make sure that everything stays as same as possible. They're also taking notes on everything that is shot. So they have what's called a daily editor's log, and they're noting everything. If the director has a favorite take, they'll circle it. That's known as a circle take, so that the editor knows, hey, like the director really likes this take. You should try to use it if possible. Also, if there's issues with sound or camera or any other department, they'll note that as well. As long as anything else that might be useful for the editor to know, because for the most part, editors aren't on set. So the script supervisors are like the eyes and ears of the editors on set. And going off of that, for the post-production department, like I said, most of the time they're not on set. There are some instances where they are. For example, there's a role on set called DIT. It's the role of the person who's in the DIT role to basically take all of the camera and sound footage and get it to the editor. So sometimes on a lower budget film, the editor will also be DIT just so they know what's going on. They can just take the footage and put it right onto their own drive. Um, and on bigger projects, they may be waiting for footage and cutting dailies so that the crew can watch sort of a rundown of everything they've shot that day. Okay, so that's all I have for this. Just kind of a rundown of what's going on, what everything's doing, what everyone's doing. There's a lot of moving parts. Um, and it's something, unfortunately, we won't be able to quite emulate just because we don't have a full crew with us. But I do think it's important to kind of see that there's lots of different departments, lots of different people doing different things so that they can come together and work towards a singular vision. So, with that being said, we're going to get into talking about some of the equipment we have. We have a pretty basic camera and some pretty basic sound equipment. We're not going to get too complicated with it, just showing you the basics of how you shoot a short. So, we're going to get into that.